the same thing. I'll call your name and I'll have to have that verbal confirmation when we vote, okay? So that's how we're gonna do the meeting today. The vouchers have been going out in email. I don't know if everybody sees them, if they've been able to, sign them. We just need an approval of minutes for the March 12th meeting.
I move to approve the meeting minutes from March 12th.
And can you just state your name?
Jessica Bass.
Thank you.
This is Jessica Stewart, second.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions or comments about that? All right, all those in favor. I'm going to go down the list again. Jessica Bass.
Approved. Yes, favor.
Jessica Stewart.
Yes.
Roger Sandoval.
Yes.
Jen Horner.
I read them, but I was not there, so.
Right, okay.
Um,
Do you want to vote or do you want to abstain?
I mean, I agree, I'll vote, sure.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. And then myself, I approve. Okay, wonderful. Moving on.
Guess what?
No.
I love visitors.
Yeah.
Mark, is there any public comment for tonight? Oh, you're on mute, Mark, you're on mute.
Mark, you're muted, but when you unmute, it doesn't seem like we can hear you.
You might want to, is your computer volume turned up? Your microphone or? Not yet.
We could maybe move on to the principal's report. He may need to log out and come back in.
All right. Yeah, we'll move on to the principal's report and come back to the public comment.
Okay. So give me just a second while I switch between screens. So to start off with, I just want to note that at the top of the principal's report, I've added a couple of new links there. There are some community resources there, and there's the a survey that we've sent out several times to the Tremont community, the Tremont school community, just for us to have a better understanding of what needs might be out there and how we can best be supporting Tremont families. So those are both linked in there. I've gone ahead and updated our attendance, and enrollment has not changed recently. I assume everybody is still in the same place, but I have not seen them, so it's hard really to say. We do have some staffing updates, and Mark will be back to be able to take part in this. But we did hold interviews for our middle school math position last week, and we are pleased to have a candidate that Mark is going to move forward for nomination today. And I also want you just to be aware that we had put in our budget as one of our additional items, an additional Ed Tech 3 based on incoming needs for a student that will be starting with us in the fall. And I don't like not being able to see you folks when I'm talking to you. And so those are the types of things that are remaining in the budget. Other additional items have been taken out, as you'll see in a little bit, but the special services are things that we are required to provide. And so you'll notice that there is going to be an advertisement that goes out for an additional Ed Tech 3. And I've spoken to Mark about that. In terms of just our remote learning transition, we continue to try to reiterate that there are several things that we've remained focused on. Number one being safety. Number two being that we want to stay connected with our kids. We want to stay academically connected with them, but we want to make sure that they're doing well socially and emotionally. And those are all very tricky things, especially when we're not in contact with each other in our buildings. And we want to try to keep kids engaged in learning, engaged in just thinking and being creative and problem solving, and trying to be creative about ways that we can do that. And I just think it's important for people to be aware that this was such an extreme situation that we kind of were plunged into this spring. And that as we look ahead to fall, one of the things that we are already having conversations about and thinking about moving forward is the accountability piece, and how are we helping to make sure that kids are moving forward and whatnot. So just know that that's another piece that we'll be working on for the fall. And part of that just being that, we don't know what fall's going to look like yet, that, there could be a combination of us in school and then out of school. It could be that we start in, there's so many different factors that could come up for fall. So we're just unsure of what that might look like. Some things going on. We are preparing this week. I just put out today a sign up form for teachers to be able to, with strict safety protocols in place, for teachers to be able to get back into their classrooms and just begin to, again, collect any materials that they might want for the last few weeks of school, prepare any materials that they might want to disseminate to students, and then get their classrooms so that they are summer cleaning ready. Clean off surfaces, clean out refrigerators, all those kinds of things. We've gone to, like many other schools, we've gone to bulk food service. So every Thursday morning, there's a small crew of food service folks that have been incredibly helpful, and we're very appreciative of them being there every Thursday morning. And at this time, we're serving close to 30 families in Tremont every Thursday morning. We've received and are in the process of disseminating hotspots to families that were without internet connectivity. There's a chance that we may see a few more, but we're really doing quite well in terms of connectivity in Tremont for the majority of our students. New K1 iPads were expected to arrive on Wednesday, but with shipping right now, nothing is going as planned. And so they had not come in yesterday. The hope was to be able to give them out, to get everything ready and to be able to give them out this morning to anybody who came for the food service program. But last I heard, they were in Chicago, and they were finding a driver to be able to quickly get them to us. So they expect that they should arrive over the weekend, and that by the beginning of next week, we should be able to disseminate those. So I just want to make you all aware that we do have a system in place and a team in place, so that should teachers have concerns about, many aspects of where we're at right now for students, whether that be safety concerns or whether that be connectivity concerns or social concerns or emotional concerns, we do have a team in place to help address that quickly. And we have a survey form that teachers can fill out that allows myself and Ann Dalton and Nurse Kelsey to quickly figure out who's the best person to tackle whatever that situation might be, and to be able to address that and make sure that students' needs are being met quickly, even though we're not together and in the school building. So I think that's important, just that you're all aware that we are really trying to continue to care for the whole child, even though they're not there in our school with us. I did not highlight underneath. I don't know if you can see my principal's report or not right now, but I highlighted some things for myself that I wanted to mention to you. And I didn't highlight that the specialist teachers have been pushing into different classes and whatnot, but I think that that's important for you to know. I've sat in on several different morning meetings with different classes where the specialists have been there, working on different skills with them. I did a plank challenge in my living room the other day with 3rd and 4th graders, and I was speaking French last week with Madame. And so we're trying to find ways to work specialists in and keep them connected with students, and they're doing a really nice job, and excited for any chance they get to be able to connect with students. And they have great materials on their pages. So I would just, I know that time, first of all, there are days where I wake up, and this morning was one of them where I had to say to my husband, is today Wednesday or Thursday? And so I know that we're easily losing track of time. I know that our time is filled up, and our time is kind of controlled by other things right now, like when do you decide to go to the grocery store, or when can you get an appointment for whatever. So, I say that just to mention that it's hard to be able to get, it may be hard to get kids connected with the specialist pages and to try to add one more thing. But if you find that your child is stressed or is looking for something additional, there might be some things there that could be a release or some sort of an enrichment for kids. So I would just point that out. And then there's some other things on there that you folks can take a look at that I don't need to read through all of them. We're planning, I'm trying to watch the weather right now. We're supposed to have a teacher parade for Saturday. And the weather looks terrible Saturday. So there is a decent chance that we are going to end up rescheduling our parade for Saturday morning until, I liked it on Saturday morning because I think that allows more families and more teachers to be freed up for it. So I'm going to look ahead to see what the following weekend looks like. But there's a decent chance that we will end up postponing our teacher parade and it will not take place this Saturday morning. So I will be communicating with families and the larger community shortly about that. I really would like to see it happen. I just don't think that we need to ask our families to stand out in the pouring rain. So, so that's about it for right now. I think, does anybody have any questions?
If you guys have if that's a good idea, Jessica, if you guys could raise your hands and I'll write down the order and I'll call on you guys. Okay. So Jessica Bass, go ahead.
Yep, no, I was just wondering how the staff themselves are doing. I know actually there's a couple of staff members that I've talked to that have been basically my counselor to some extent. And I was just wondering to see if there are services that they are tapping into, or are they finding camaraderie among themselves, but just are they also practicing just good mental health right now?
I think everybody is trying
hard, so I hope that
and
there
we're
is something
hoping that,
available for them.
we're encouraging people to be taking care of themselves, finding joy, getting outside, exercising, all of those kinds of things. We've done different things like we've held just virtual, not staff meetings, but for lack of a better term, like a happy hour where we can all just be together and enjoy each other's company. And so we try to connect in different ways. I think people were really looking forward to the parade for this weekend and so I hate to postpone that because I think that is something that people are really excited about. I know that there have been lots of messages going to teachers this week about for Teacher Appreciation Week, and I've got more that they're unaware of. So I hear positive things from them. I know that they are struggling like parents are in many ways to be able to juggle working from home, being a full-time parent, all of those same kinds of things that everybody else is juggling. They are struggling with those same sorts of things, but they are remaining positive. And any positive feedback, any just positive messages, I'm sure they would love to receive. So thank you for asking about them, Jessica.
Anybody else? Yeah, Julie.
I just want to say that the Tremont teachers have been awesome in the common studies that we've had, the virtual common studies. So every other week I'm meeting with different groups. They've been really positive. They've been really contributing. And I think they have said, all of the teachers have said how much those all of a sudden are meaning because they get to actually see each other. It's really hard to remember that there's other music teachers and there's other second grade teachers, and it's been good for them to do that.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right. We'll move. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, Heidi, I apologize. I had some tech difficulties, but just wanted to let you know no public comment was received up to the start of the meeting. Thank you.
All right. I guess we'll move on to the subcommittees. Mark had said at the AOS meeting on Monday that we're going to track for May 28th for a policy meeting. Do we have a time for that at all, Mark?
That'll certainly be, I'll poll folks, but traditionally we had met 5:30, 6 p.m. I anticipated being around the same time. So I'll do some outreach here next week to poll people's availability and keep it, to that time frame. We typically go from like 5:30 or 6 to about 7:30. And so that's what we'll plan for if folks are available. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no other active subcommittees right now, so there's
no. You know, obviously with everything that we're all going through, we're trying to focus on the day to day. And so a lot of those things that were in the queue are on hold right now. Yes, thank you.
All right, so I guess we'll just go ahead and move right on to the discussion items. And the first one is the 8th grade promotion ceremony. Jandra, you and I talked a little bit about this and I had some ideas and I wanted to just, wanted to make it a discussion item because I wanted to hear maybe what everybody else
Mhm.
had thought. Obviously, we're not going to be able to hold our ceremonies this year like we'd want to. But
They won't be able to look the same, that's for
Right,
sure.
exactly. So I don't know if you want, I don't know what everybody else around the district is doing, but I mean, I know Jandra and I talked, and Jandra, do you want to just throw your ideas out? And
I think that, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, we've been, as an administrative team, this is one of the things that we need to tackle, and we've been really focused on end of year communications. And so I think that this is something that the high school is still trying to figure out what exactly graduation might look like. And I mean, there have been conversations about the teachers and I that are typically the middle school team, I should say, the teachers that are typically involved with an 8th grade promotion had started things like, you know, there's always a section of promotion where the teachers share their thoughts and memories of each individual child. And so that document has been shared so that we can be collecting those memories. I think that I don't want to say worst case scenario, but I guess worst case scenario is that there's a remote promotion ceremony with students and their families. If there is no way for us to gather in small groups, I think that the unfortunate thing is that there's so many uncertainties that we're still waiting to hear what might be able to be possible. I've had people ask me things like, could we do something in the summer if restrictions have changed? Could we do something outside? And I think we're open to hearing all ideas. I actually had proposed just the other day to just send out a survey to students and families to get feedback and just to hear what some options might be or what might be on people's minds. I think we want to maintain safety, of course. That's going to be top priority. However, we do need to recognize these 8th graders. I did just recently order lawn signs for each of them. So we have a paw print lawn sign with each of their names on it that we'll put at school when they arrive and then be able to give to each of the 8th graders afterwards. But we do anticipate there being a promotion ceremony. We have not set a date for that yet. I just wish we knew if there was a definitive yes or no in terms of any type of gathering. At this point, and we haven't heard that we are going to be able to do something like that, but I would hate to rush things and then find out the following week that things might have lifted. So I'd be open to hearing what people's thoughts are. And I would also say we've had people ask about the 8th grade class trip and those funds and whatnot. And those are still conversations too that the administrators are having in terms of could there possibly be an opportunity for something to happen later in the summer or early in the fall within the state of Maine? These are all questions that have come up and things that we would love to be able to see happen. There's just no definitive answers, and that's the most difficult part.
I know that I wish we could do something because they are going to high school, and those funds that they have there, they are the ones that fundraise for that money. I'd hate to see that money go to the next class, and because we always leave some carryover from one class to the other. But I wonder maybe if we're not able to have a ceremony or something like that, if we do a package for them for the with high school gear. We have a smaller class, it might be something that could easily be done, with a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or a hat or, something to get them ready and get them excited about going to high school, even though they've missed this part of their 8th grade year, That was something I had thought of, and I want to be able to, do something for them.
So I don't think that there's the conversation about like all of those funds being transferred to next year's class. I think that we will do something to be able to recognize and to be able to send them off. We will have some sort of a promotion ceremony. It may just have to be with, 8th grade families doing something similar to this, which is not what we want to see happen, but there will be an opportunity for us to recognize the 8th graders through a promotion ceremony. I just wish that we had, and, I think, I don't think Mark has any new information that I don't have in terms of gatherings and people getting together, but we will have a recognition of the 8th graders. And I'm very open to ideas in terms of what are some possibilities for, I wouldn't want to, if there's a chance that we could do some sort of a trip with them late summer in, a small group. Within the state of Maine, I wouldn't want to spend all of their funds ahead of time. We wouldn't be able to take a trip then if we didn't have the funds for it. So that, I think that what you're mentioning, Heidi, is something that could be a possibility. I don't think that if we were, I don't think we're going to be traveling out of state soon on a class trip is my guess. Mark, did you want to weigh in there?
Heidi, is it okay?
Yeah.
I sent something to the school committee, and just the general public and staff should know that, certainly all the things that Jandria said are appropriate, but the guidelines for the state through the Department of Education, I shared with the board. So if folks are curious, they're trying to plan things, obviously. Everybody's really sad that we can't recognize the kids the way we'd like to traditionally, but there are some things that are really creative and thoughtful. And I think a lot of things you've talked about here are certainly open. It's just gatherings are going to be really difficult. And we have to follow the CDC and the state guidelines. And, right now it's in the foreseeable future going to be 50 or less. And so that's going to be very difficult to navigate proximity and certainly anything indoors. So like everybody else, we're taking our lead from best practices and following the science and trying just to keep a positive foot forward. So I think, as long as we can continue to recognize that, we'll be in good stead. But as things begin to open up and we can do things in a safe way, we're certainly open to doing that. And I know Jandria has been working really hard with the principals and they're working with the kids to try to make sure that everything is as meaningful and special as possible and that they've got ownership. So thanks. But anything that I get from the state, you guys will certainly be right in the know right away. Excuse me.
Thank you. Jen Horner?
Yes, so, I think asking, and putting a survey out there to the parents and to the families is definitely a good idea, Jandy. And also, maybe if it does raise that we can have gatherings of 50, whether or not, it does seem the numbers could work out if each family wants to just be able to bring 2 family members, the rest of it, maybe you can do live. But I do think that asking family members makes them feel like that you care what everybody's thoughts are.
And we do very much. So
Yeah.
I want that to be clear. I think that this, 8th graders always have had input on their different, their ceremonies and how they're recognized. And I think that that's important. We do still have a yearbook that's coming out and that will highlight the 8th graders as well. So, we're trying to keep things in place that we typically would have in place. And so Jen, that's something that I will move forward with, is that survey.
Yeah.
Jessica Bass, you were next.
Yeah, I just had a question in terms of if the kids can't use their trip money, is there any, the trip money that they raised for their 8th grade class trip, is there any way we can give it back to them in some kind of scholarship fund or just something so that way they could use in the future for different endeavors? Because they have worked for it, they have raised this money, and I know it was for a particular purpose. I just don't know if we can distribute it for future endeavors.
I don't have the answer to that. I don't know if Mark or Julie have anything to, I would have to look into something like that. I'm not
So,
sure.
Each school does it a little differently, but certainly any money that were raised by the class and dedicated to a trip or an event, I think we can be creative with that. We've done that with the high school trip. I mean, it's not our money. It's not the school's money. It's not the district's money. But as long as we do that in a way that is treats everybody equally, and it's something the school committee's comfortable with, sure. We can check with Nancy just to make sure how we do that, but I'm confident that can happen. And whether or not the class decides to leave a little, or they do like Heidi suggested, it's things to get them ready for high school, or it's a scholarship. I think all those things can be explored, and the kids can have some ownership. So we can check with Nancy and move that along pretty quickly. Thank you.
Jen Horner?
Yeah, the kids were asked in their last advisory too, what they wanted to do, and have their 2 cents put in. So they
Yeah.
have asked what their thoughts are on this whole thing. So.
Madame Linscott and I joined them in an advisory recently, and they're very quiet. I can tell you when we meet remotely, they which is fascinating because they are not a quiet group in a classroom, but remotely they are very quiet. And so there were maybe 2 or 3 kids that shared their thoughts then, and I offered for them to also email me any thoughts that they might have if they didn't feel comfortable mentioning it when we were meeting. And I think I did get one email about that. So you're right, Jen. We have asked the kids to give feedback. I'll continue to reiterate that. And I did let Mrs. White know, who is their advisory teacher, that I let her know that I'd be happy to schedule a time to go back to their advisory once they've had some time to think about it too. So I'll touch base with her again. Tomorrow is their advisory, and I'm not lined up to go in, but probably the following Friday, I would think I would go back.
All right. Any other discussion? Any other hands? Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I don't know. It's not necessarily it doesn't fall into the 8th grade promotion kind of part, but what about our kindergarten friends? I know Mrs. Stanley has always done a little thing where at the end of the year, she gets the parents together for I think it's called like a learning ceremony, and they get an opportunity to just kind of display all their accomplishments throughout the year. And it's nothing at the same scale as the 8th graders, but it's still a nice little touch for our youngest friends who have had to endure their first year of school.
I think, so the K1 iPads, when they originally went out, our iPads were older. And so as you know, they didn't all handle the same, meet the same platform and programming that middle schoolers are using. And so that's the reason behind the K1 iPads that we're waiting for to have arrived. So once we get those, there's the possibility that we might be able to do something like that with parents' support. I haven't heard that come up from Mrs. Stanley, but that's probably because I think her brain is also thinking about that this time of year we would be doing kindergarten registration, and we would be doing kindergarten screening. And so we do have kindergarten registration paperwork available on our website, so that it can be filled out digitally. That Ms. Meehan is working on getting that all set up. And I know, so that's something that I can follow up with Ms. Stanley on.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to discussion of the other discussion item, which is the budget. And Nancy sent that budget out, the revised budget today. I don't know if everybody got a chance to look at it. We don't need to vote on anything right now, I don't think. I want you guys to be able to look at it, take it in, and have a quick discussion about, what's been taken out, why they've been taken out. And then I think we'll probably have another meeting to go ahead and just reaffirm this budget, or do we make that adjustment on the floor at town meeting when we are allowed to have that, Mark?
Well, Heidi, 2 things. You did vote to approve your budget, so that's what was moved to the town. So if you want to have adjustments, you need to revote that, number one. And number two, I believe the warrant's already been printed and it had been approved by the select board. So yes, is the short answer. Any change that the school committee wishes to make would need to be done by a vote, and then recommendations for changing the warrants on the town floor. That would be the correct way to do it. And if I may, Heidi, I just want to say that there's a strong possibility we will start our school year, fiscal year 21, without a budget in place. I don't want anybody to get nervous. The town manager and the selectmen have been great. This is just a function of the times we're in. And so if that happens and we have to go into the next fiscal year, we end 30 June, we begin July 1st. If we don't have a budget passed, which is a real possibility, assuming they try to hold a town meeting or budget validation, whatever they decide to do, that would probably be in July. So we're going to be in a period of time until that budget's passed that we don't have a budget, but we do have a budget. The law says that if the budget hasn't been passed, a successor budget has not been passed, you maintain the last publicly passed budget, which would be our FY20 budget. What we need to be mindful of, and this is why the school committee may want to take these actions, is that when we turn the page, even though we might issue things not to spend monies or hold on supplies or things of that nature, we still have to maintain our contractual obligations, which would mean whatever percent increases are for teachers, support staff, and insurances and so on. So, you know, we just want to be mindful of that. And with that, we made the recommendations. Jandria was involved, Nancy, and myself. And I believe, you know, I think we're unanimous on our recommendation to the school committee. I'll just say I'm really, really disappointed that we can't move or not recommending pre-K move forward. Julie did a great job. Jandria did a great job. The school committee, the select board, just amazing support, but timing is everything. And we just have to be really conscious of the time. So that's one of our recommendations, is to put that on hold. And then the other additional items, just in the times we're in, the uncertainty, the potential questions about revenue, we just can't with good conscience advance any additional items at this time. I will say that if there are any special education needs, those are not included in any holds. Any things that we're required to do to meet a child's individual education plan or programming, we will continue to bring those forward. So that, sorry, kind of a long-winded overview, but we haven't met for a while, and I just wanted to know where we were budget-wise. And so once the school committee has an opportunity to digest that, I think it's a very responsible recommendation, and you know, we're happy to take any questions from the school committee about the budget. And I don't know if Jandria has anything to add. Thank you.
I do want to say the reason why I don't want to vote on it tonight is because it just went out today. And there's probably something else we're going to have to take action on before the end of the month. That's another reason why I wanted to move the meeting up this week rather than next week, because I think we'll have to try to get in another meeting by the end of this month, because there's some other business too that we might have to attend to. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys have, you probably don't have the budget in front of you. So the only two items that are staying as additional items are the additional day per week for speech, correct, Jandria? And the ed tech for the special ed tech, the 101. And those are the only two that right now are staying on as additional items. We did close in on a really great deal for fuel prices this year, which was amazing. $1.25, which is unheard of.
I think we budgeted like $2.75 because we were at $2.29 this year. And yes, that we did lock in at the $1.25 a gallon mark.
And then the other thing was we do have a health insurance increase this year, which we haven't had for the last couple of years. So it's kind of going to offset each other a little bit this in the budget this year.
Right.
Only thing that I want to speak of, and I think Mark and I had talked about this, and I've talked to Jandria about it, is the behavior specialist position. I was a little worried about taking that out, knowing what we could be if we were to end up going back to school in the fall, what we could be dealing with in the classrooms with students. And I do worry about that. And that's one of the reasons why I was a little hesitant about the behavioral specialist position. But I don't know if Julie or Mark want to weigh in about that and what.
Well, I would certainly open it up to Jandria and Julie both, but I would just say that it's a top priority for me and for all of us. But again, I want to be careful as I say this, because I think the principals are working on collaboratively across the district to try to be creative to do some supports in that area without including that money presently. I don't know if Jandria or Julie are comfortable expanding on that. I don't want to be premature, but at the end of the day, I think what I would say is that what our budget is, we need to find ways to responsibly address the needs of all of our kids, and we're going to continue to do that. I don't have anything concrete to add right now, other than to say that I just have to look at the forecast, and the responsible thing to do for the citizens right now, balanced with what we're doing for kids, is to pull back on that recommendation, similar to what we did with operations. It's not a wish, it's a need. Supports, emotional supports for kids are not a wish, they're needs. But we have to balance what we know our needs are with what our resources are. And so we're trying to walk that line. Jandria, Julie, I don't know if you want to expand anything on that. I mean, if you don't, that's fine. But if you'd like to, please.
They have opened up some of the ways that we can spend some of the grant money from the feds. The only thing we don't know is how much we're going to get. And it's based on Title I, the formula. So it's likely we're not going to get a ton, but it is possible that we would get that and be able to match that with some other funds to offset some of the costs of the position this year. And I know that Jandria has been in conversation with several of the other principals to figure out if there's other places where we might be able to cobble together funding so that at least for next year, we may be able to go ahead. But I wouldn't say anything's definitive. And we certainly haven't even gotten all of the guidelines yet. So we're waiting.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the budget? And again, I want you guys to really look this over. And the reason why I say that is because we have to be thoughtful, not only about this budget, but we have to be mindful that next year is when I think the towns and the voters are gonna feel that big burden economically. You know, I think that right now we're all in the midst of this complete chaos a little bit, and haven't really felt the the true economic impact yet. And I think that next year when we go to try to approve our budget, that's when we're going to hear a lot of maybe some pushback, or we're going to get more questions about our budget. And that's what I feel. And that's why I want to be thoughtful about this, but being mindful of what's going to happen next year. Yeah, Mark.
I just want to add, I did get some outreach from one of the selectmen. It was very positive, but I was asked a question. So what happens, if you don't pass a budget? Could you guys live with your existing budget in the next fiscal year? It's not a bad question. It's hypothetical. The short answer is that would be, I don't want to say devastating, but it would be very, very significantly damaging, because we would have to be looking at programs and services that we wouldn't be able possibly to offer because of those things I mentioned earlier. So that's why it is important, I think, that we all, look at tightening our belts, looking at the future, and doing everything we can to put our best foot forward. And I just want to emphasize again, Chris Saunders, the select board, all you guys, everybody's been great. And I know we're all working on the same page trying to do the same thing. So I appreciate, Heidi, your advocacy too and the rest of the school committee for the things kids needs, emotional supports, and we're going to keep fighting for those things, but try to do that in a way that keeps a good eye forward on just being respectful for what people can contribute during these difficult times. Thanks.
This is Jessica. Hey, I mean, I trust the budget creators, and I do have a little concern about too much belt tightening, because I'm concerned about, then like, what if we go back in the fall and there are all these high needs because, things have kind of gone to hell for kids over the break. And then, and then we're sort of pushed up against a wall about rebuilding the budget back up in the subsequent years, and where people will be like, well, you did it on the cheap this year, so like, let's, I mean, I know we have a very supportive select board and all that. I just want to be cautious about over tightening the belt and creating a chain effect going forward.
Like a false
May I,
stalemate.
may I respond, Heidi?
Yeah.
Jessica, thanks. That's a great point. And again, that's the fine line we walk, because we don't want to create a cliff. Number one, we want to underscore, whatever supports our kids' needs, we want to provide it. And so, yeah, that's that fine line, and I'm concerned about that too. I think at the end of the day, too, there's a couple. I don't want to say safety nets. They're not, because they're meant to get us through tough times, and we don't want to rely on them to deflect, if you will, or supplant. But if we have to dip into special education reserves, some schools have those. They're in healthy amounts. We don't want to go there, but we could. And certainly there's the district reserve too, but those are for, as the board knows, extraordinary times. So there are a couple of pieces there to get us through tough and difficult or unplanned for events. But and I just want to make sure that I'm honest about that. But at the same time, I appreciate your advocacy, because we don't want to be bare bones to the point where then it's going to be very difficult to bring services back that should be there in the first place. Thank you.
Andrea?
The only other thing I would add is that in some of our administrative meetings, what we've talked about is the need to really make sure that the messaging is clear, that some of these things that we're removing are truly needs, and that they are temporarily removed for because of the situation that we're in, but that does not mean that the need is going to go away, and that we aren't going to need to ask for these funds again at some point. And so again, just being really transparent, I think, with the select boards and with the taxpayers, that we have removed these things because we are in these extreme times, but this is kind of a temporary removal of some things, like this behavior position, whatever that ends up being, school psychologist, whatever it is something that is a true need in our district. And so we want to be careful, like you said, to not falsely put out there that like we do not need these funds. So I think the messaging is very important, and I know that my colleagues feel the same way.
Yes, that's exactly my point, Chandria. It's just to be really clear on the messaging, so people don't come back and say, well, you said you needed these positions, but then you did fine without them last year. So, I'm not saying anyone's going to say that, but, just looking down the road. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Jessica.
All right, so we'll revisit this probably by the end of the month. Okay, I do want you guys to go over that and see what it looks like. And then I do need to add one more discussion item to the agenda. I did reach out to Chris Saunders, because there have been questions at the AOS level about board positions that came up for election, that were coming vacant by town elections. And Chris wrote to me and told me that anybody that was on a ballot or was a write-in for an election would assume that position until we are able to hold a town vote. Anybody that had been appointed within a term would have to vacate the seat when the election originally would have happened. So that would have been whenever we would have had town meeting this year. But Mark and I had this discussion about whether we can reappoint someone if their seat became vacant and how we go about that. And I have to call Katie Dan Duran tomorrow. She wasn't in the office until tomorrow, and I won't have that answer until tomorrow, but I just wanted to make you guys aware that that's the situation right now with board seats. So anybody that was coming up, their term was coming up, that they would assume those roles until we have a town election. All right, are there any questions about that?
So this is Roger. So I didn't even have to call in today, huh? No.
No, you did, because we wouldn't have had our town meeting by now. Nice try. So I think going forward, Roger, if you were interested in staying, and once I get my answer from Katie tomorrow, that's something that's the other pressing matter that I would like to get done by the end of this month. Is if that were the case, would you be interested in continuing on if we can do that?
Sure, absolutely. Unless you have someone else that wants it,
Well, Roger, there are many
Yeah.
people.
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, well, that's good to
That's
know.
wonderful news, Roger.
Thank you. But again, I'll reach out and we'll try to plan a meeting by the end of the month to, I want to act on the budget, and then I also want to act on this seat as well. So thank you for that, Roger. All right.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to the action items. This should go pretty quick. It should go pretty quick. The first action item is the nomination and election of probationary teachers, and you guys all got those in your email. So hold on, I just got to get to my email now. So the probationary teachers, we'll do these. We won't do them in a slate because we have different tiers. So we have first year moving to second year would be Caroline Fournier. The second year moving to third year would be Joyce Mahoney in the library. And the third year moving to continuing contract would be Michelle Lear. And what is her position again?
She's literacy interventionist.
Literacy interventionist, okay. All right, so I would just take a motion with your name to approve the first year moving to second year as Caroline Fournier.
Jessica Bass moves to allow first year to move to second year foreigner.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go down is there a second?
This is Roger. I second it.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna take Roger that time. All right, I'm gonna go down the list. Jessica Bass.
Yes.
And Jessica Stewart.
Yes.
Roger.
Yes.
And I do believe we've lost Jen, but I'll call out for her once. Jen? And then I approve. So how do we do that since she left? Would it just be?
So the vote would be 4-0, no abstentions. It's just you'd note in the minutes approximately the time that Jennifer departed. So it's 6:20 now. So I would assume around 6:10 I saw her go off the screen. So I would just note that it's 4-0.
Okay.
And
All right.
you can do it that way.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right. And then we have second year moving to third year. We have Joyce Mahoney. Can I have a motion?
This is Jessica Stewart. I move Joyce Mahoney from second year to third year.
Thank you. And a second?
Second, Jessica Bass.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Jessica Bass.
Yes.
Jessica Stewart.
Yes.
Roger.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right, so it's 4-0. Thank you. And then third, moving to continuing contract would be Michelle Lear. And can I get a motion?
This is Jessica Stewart. I move for Michelle Lear to go from third year to continuing contract.
Thank you. And a second?
This is Roger. I'll second it.
Thank you, Roger. All right, Jessica Bass.
Yes.
Jessica Stewart.
Approve.
Roger St. Amand.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you both. Thank you all, not both. All right, next on the agenda. Oh, was there a question? Sorry.
I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you guys very much.
Thanks and congratulations.
Yes, definitely.
I will let them know. They will be happy to hear that.
Thank you. All right, so the next up is we have the nomination and election of a math teacher. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to nominate Christina Chrissy. Jandra, I want to get this right. Siddons, is that how she pronounced it? Siddons, excuse me. Siddons, Siddons. Christina Chrissy Siddons. She's a very interesting individual. I'm thrilled to nominate her for your consideration. And I say interesting in that her background is non-traditional. I really enjoyed having a conversation with her, and I think Jandria did an outstanding job with her team identifying an excellent candidate for this mathematics position. I look at people, interview a lot, and look at people from their backgrounds, and I have to say, from an educational standpoint, the experiences that she's going to bring to the table are very unique and bountiful. She is she will be finishing her Master of Science in Teaching at the University of Maine at Orono very shortly, in the next month or two. She's a graduate of Cornell University with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. But you might wonder, well, but Mark, you're nominating her for a mathematics position. She's certified in life science and mathematics and has a passion for mathematics. But where I think she really stands out is going to be her extensive experience in maritime education, the strong connection and her belief of connecting the sea to curriculum and experiences that we all have around our school and our island and our communities are going to be very unique. She has worked at the Woods Hole Institute. She's worked at the Mount Desert Island Bio Lab. She's published, she's conducted research, and I think, that's the greatest testament to students is when we have people that can model their own learning. And so that I'm really thrilled to bring the nomination forward. I think she'll do an outstanding job and add to what is already an excellent team. So happy to take any questions or defer to Jandria at this point. Thank you very much.
Jessica?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just a question. Was she able to join the kids before? Was she in the school at any point in time beforehand with the kids?
She has not.
Oh, okay. There was I just remember another young woman and maybe. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm excited. And if we decide to accept that nomination, I can't wait to meet her and see what she brings to Tremont School. I think it's going to be very exciting. Does anybody else have any other questions?
This is Roger. I have a couple questions. Were there any other interviewees for this position?
There were.
I'm looking a little bit at her bio, and I'm a little concerned about her math background and how strong she may or may not be in that. I know I'm all for some alternative viewpoint, but I just want to be sure she has a strong math background. I don't see that here, but maybe Mark, could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Roger, if I may, and please, Julie or Jandria, you may feel free to expand, but I appreciate that, Roger, because I was intrigued by, strong background in science, but math, where are we at? Well, first of all, it's a very rigorous process to receive certification to teach mathematics at either the elementary or the secondary level. And Chrissy is certified to do that. You have to pass an exam, if you will, a competency exam, the praxis exam. And Chrissy, again, going through those hoops, I'm very, very confident that she's going to be able to not only meet, but exceed the standards of what our children would need in those two areas. And I'd ask Jandria or Julie to please expand upon that if they have anything to offer.
I think that you covered it, Mark. I would say that through her student teaching, math and science is what she's focused on. And I would also add, like Mark said, that there are some not so easy exams and tests that need to be passed in order to acquire that certification, which she did with flying colors. So I have no concerns whatsoever about her qualifications and abilities to be able to perform. And I would just say that anybody that I asked those same questions to with regards to her candidacy could not have had anything more promising and powerful to say.
This is
Yeah,
Jessica.
this is Roger. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I also think, I mean, to get an undergraduate and master's degree in science, there's pretty extensive math requirements in that process that would, I mean, exceed the requirements of middle school, algebra, geometry, even algebra 2, even pre-calculus, that kind of,
I would agree. As a former science educator at the middle and high school level, I was certified in life and physical, but I taught physics for many years, and there are so many parallels in the mathematics. But again, I'd remind everybody with if the school committee does approve the nomination, that all of the folks that we bring in are probationary. There'll be opportunities to evaluate and to grow and to receive feedback from our students and parents. But I'm very confident. I appreciate these questions because I'm really proud of the fact that we want the very best. And I'm also equally proud that we're focusing on math and literacy. And so these are the questions we should. And it just speaks to how rigorous our process is. And it speaks to the quality of the people we're getting. So that it makes me proud as a superintendent to have those questions and to know that there are very high standards and that we maintain those standards. Thank you.
Heidi, if you don't mind, I would just add that something that she's really excited about and very passionate about is the opportunity to encourage students in the area of math and to help them understand at such a critical point in their life as being, young, early teens and trying to figure out who they are, helping them to feel very comfortable with math, helping them to understand how it applies practically to the world around them, and how that it does not have to be bookwork, and that there are real life applications that are important. She's very enthusiastic about helping students to be able to feel comfortable with math and even find joy in math and hands-on learning, outdoor education, and math through that. I think that there's a lot of power and possibility in partnerships with Jane White through science as well. So I think there's a lot of power in that.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to ask, Roger?
The only other thing that came to mind was that she seems to have a very high focus on science and maritime sciences, and I'm just wondering if we think she might be around for a while, or if this is like somebody that might be here for a year then move on. I'd be interested if you talked to her about that.
We sure did. One of the questions that Mark frequently asks candidates is, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? And she is somebody with ties to this area and and Mark can speak to this a little bit more as well, but intends on being in this area and is committed to this area, lives in this area. And so Mark, maybe you can speak a little bit more to that, but he did ask her that directly, and her intentions are to remain in this area.
Yes, I apologize. I had to step out. Individuals living in the area and companion and spouse also working in the area. So yeah, that's one of the things I always probe is, why this particular school, why this position? And I felt very comfortable again with that there was going to be investment. And actually the individual currently student teaching in the Ellsworth department was really excited when this opportunity opened up, because was looking for something particularly in the MDI and in this area. Jandria, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm making a note so I don't forget what it was that I was going to say. So I think there's a few other things to point out here is that, and that came clear through this process is that although she is finishing up her teaching degree this summer, and she is not new to teaching and education, and that was very evident in folks that I'd talked to that observing her is not going to be like observing a brand new educator. She has many experiences that make this very natural for her. And then the other thing that I was going to say was that she is not looking at other positions. Mark, tell me to be quiet if there's anything I shouldn't say at any point, but she is not interested or looking at other positions. That she sought out Tremont School specifically because she said she keeps an eye on what's going on locally through the local papers and whatnot. And she has seen Tremont highlighted in different articles. She brought up multiple things like the fact that we have teachers who are playing in the band with our students, and different projects that she's seen. And anecdotally, she had heard very powerful things about our school. And so she chose to apply to our school for the math position because that is what she wanted. So I think that she sought us out intentionally.
Does that answer your question, Roger?
Excellent. Yes, thank you.
Do you have anything else?
No, I do not.
Okay. Are there any other questions about this nomination? No? Okay. Then we'll just go ahead and move forward, and I will take any motion to accept the nomination of Christina Siddons.
Yes, correct.
Siddon. Is it Siddon or Siddons?
Siddons with an S at the end.
Okay. All right. I'll take a motion to accept the nomination of Christina Siddons as the math teacher.
This is Jessica Stewart. I make a motion to accept the nomination of Christina Siddons as the math teacher.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Jessica Bass.
This is Roger.
This is hard.
It is.
All right. I'm going to take Jessica Bass that time. All right. I will go down the roll. Jessica Bass,
Yes.
Jessica Stewart,
Yes.
Roger Santamon,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So that's 4-0. Thank you, guys. Very excited to get her in the building and meet her and see what she can add to Tremont. It's very
As
exciting.
am I. Thank you all very much for the support. I really appreciate that. My teachers really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and the next couple things that we have for action items are really house cleaning. This is what we do this stuff every year. The first is the authorization for the superintendent to apply for and receive state and federal funds. Now, what I can do, since if there are any questions, I will obviously open it up for questions. But if you guys want to just say so moved when I read it off, that's fine. Okay, because we have it in the agenda, and Selena can attach that with the motions. Okay, so authorization for superintendent to apply for and receive state and federal funds. Is there any question about that? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
And your name?
That was that
Jessica.
Jessica Bass. Okay,
Jessica Bass, yeah.
thank you.
All right, is there a second? Jessica Stewart, second. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Jessica Bass,
Yes.
Jessica Stewart,
Yes.
Roger Santamon,
Yes.
and Heidi, yes. All right, thank you, guys. And then next we have the authorization to participate in consolidated application for use of Title I and Title II-A funds and authorization for Bar Harbor to be the fiscal agent for these funds. Are there any questions about that? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved. This is Jessica Stewart.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Jessica Bass seconding. I was waiting for Roger to
I'm being quiet now. I'm not seconding it.
Okay.
All right, we'll do the roll. Jessica Bass,
Yes.
Jessica Stewart,
Yes.
Roger St. Amand,
Yes.
and yes for Heidi Lawson. All right, thank you, guys. All right, last but not least, we have the appointment of truant officer, attendance officer, and school physician. And that was also on there. So who do we, so I'm can't toggle on my computer. I have my phone, I have the agenda up, but couldn't print my agenda. So for truant officer, who do we have?
I believe that I'm truant officer.
Yeah, you are the truant officer. And then we have the attendance officer.
I believe that is Ann Dalton.
Okay.
I want to pull up my notes from last year on this.
And
And
then we have the school physician. Is that still Mark Kandich?
it's Julian Kufler in the agenda.
But I,
That's correct.
Is he
What,
still,
what Jessica just said.
okay, Julian Kufler? All right.
Heidi, were you just about to ask a question about that?
I wasn't sure what his capacity is now and if things have changed at
So-
all.
Heidi, may
Yeah.
I? Let me go back also, because I remember that I want to double check this because we've been working through MDI Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we work out of the consult center. So can we hold on the physician one?
Sure.
I'm comfortable with the attendance and truancy, but I'll double check with MDI Hospital.
Yeah,
because-
I think it would be good to get some clarification
Yes,
on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I will take a motion to appoint Jandria True as the truant officer and Ann Dalton as the attendance officer.
Do you want me to move before Jandria asks her question, or do
Oh,
you want
I'm sorry, I didn't. I was trying to write. Go ahead, Jandria.
I just went back to look at notes from 2019 for this same vote last year. And so it's in last year's minutes, it was me as truant officer, Ann Dalton as attendance officer, and then Tanya Henke as school physician last year.
Okay, I think it would still be good to get some clarification on that.
Yeah,
Only because I know how, and I'm probably pretty sure it's because Tanya is in the Southwest Clinic.
yes,
That's probably why.
yes.
But I just want to make sure that we're doing things the right way through the hospital and how that
Correct.
gets done. So, all right. So we'll hold on. So yeah. So we'll do the truant officer as Jandria. Motion to appointment of Jandria True as truant officer and Ann Dalton as the attendance officer. Do I have a motion?
Jessica, can I just go so moved, or do you want me to repeat?
So moved is fine.
So moved.
Okay.
This is Jessica Stewart, second.
Thank you. All right. So Jessica Bass,
Yes.
Jessica Stewart,
Yes.
Roger St. Amand.
Yes.
Thank you. And Heidi Lawson. Yes. Thank you, guys. So that is that those were all house cleaning stuff. That's stuff we do every year. Is there any other business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Heidi.
And have we received any public comments since we started our meeting? No.
Not that I have received any, no, and if we get any, we'll certainly provide it at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else to add? Yeah, Jandria?
I think the only thing that I would add is that this is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. So I want to make sure to just recognize and say publicly how incredibly impressed I am with all of my colleagues at the district and local levels in terms of how resilient and flexible and positive people have been. I get to work with these people on a regular basis in person throughout the year. And so none of this is a surprise to me. But I just am constantly in awe of the people that I am surrounded with. And I feel so fortunate to have found myself in a district with such incredible professionals. So I just feel like I needed to say that publicly and to thank my teachers for bending over backwards and my staff members for all that they do. They're truly incredible people.
Thank you. I echo the same thing. I couldn't say that better myself.
And I
So
don't know if you noticed my shirt, but
I see that. All right. So we have oh, Jessica Bass, you were gonna say something.
I just wanted to, and maybe this is a future agenda item or the next meeting, but in just getting some updates on what summer school might look like. Has there been conversations about summer school or anything like that for Tremont?
So what I can tell you, Jessica, and the public is right now, the guidance we're being given from the state is to plan our summer programming remotely. That could change, but at this time, we're not planning anything to be included in any of our school buildings. But again, that could change. So we have information coming out soon to the boards and to parents about what the end of the year looks like for our students. And certainly we're going to need to follow that very, very soon with end of the year activities and information about summer programming. And I'll just say, you haven't asked, but we're keeping our eye towards the fall too, and looking at that, because people are saying, when are we going back to our building? So those are all things we continue to work on each and every day. Jandria, as a building principal, is certainly included in those conversations, as are our nurses, as are our teachers. And so, and I can tell you that Julie works tirelessly with the principals and the teachers to liaise and make sure they're heard. And, we're looking at all scenarios and up to and including on, the possibility of continued remote learning, the possibility of a remote learning with a staggered use of building and variations thereof. It's all over the place. Julie, I don't know, you've been very patient. Is there anything you want to add to that, please?
Not really. Thank you for all the kind words.
Well deserved.
I have coined a new phrase. I don't know if I should do this live on I've coined a new phrase, and I used it with teachers for the first time today, and they liked it. So just like the word collaboratory didn't used to be known, and now everyone knows what that is, we're going to be doing amphibious design. That means we're going to be designing in ways that can go on land and on sea, online and in person, without any breaks in our way of doing things. But it means that it's going to be a big shift, and it's going to be a lot to think about, and it'll be an interesting challenge.
Mm-hmm. I guess I do have, with the end of the year, there's usually some type of recommendations that the teachers do make in terms of students that they are concerned about possibly needing that extra support in the summertime. Or is there talks about how to navigate that?
So again, we are just in the early stages of talking about what summer's going to look like, because I think everybody was really holding on very tightly to the idea of in-person summer school. And to echo what Mark is saying, it's very unlikely, and it could still happen, or it could still happen in a very strange way, like one at a time in the gym or something. So we're just trying to hold on until we get some more concrete recommendations. And then we're going to need to get creative, I think.
Could that be
and there are families for whom ongoing summer school contact remotely might be okay, because they're doing well with that. But then there are other families that we know that's not going to be the best way to do it. So I think we're going to have to really take it on a case-by-case basis as soon as we have the parameters clearer.
Was there
Thank
anything-
you. And I do understand that a lot of my questions might just come with a I don't know. And I totally understand, and it's acceptable right now. I don't know, it's acceptable. So thank you.
But we'd like to know.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And we'd like you to know. So we'll let you know as soon as we know.
Thank you.
And then it could change the week later once we know. So
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Jandria? I thought I might have seen your hand up, but no. Okay.
no, thank you.
All right. So again, the future meeting, I would like to have another meeting by the end of this month to take care of that board seat. Once I talk to Katie and take some action on this budget so we can present something back to the town, or at least have them review it, because, you know, I don't know how they're doing their meetings. I haven't seen any of their meetings. I'm sure they're doing the same type of thing. But I haven't really been in contact with them. Yeah, Mark.
Heidi, will you be reaching out to Chris and to the select board? Just let them know that the board is considering taking some action to reduce some items.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
will. I have to talk to Katie tomorrow on the
Yep.
phone, and
Thank
I will
you.
be sending Chris an email. Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Is there anything else? Any future agenda items? We have budget, we have board seats, we have possibly some talk about summer school, but I have a funny feeling by our next meeting, we won't have any answers for that.
Well, just Heidi, if I may, just to be mindful that, you know, these I really came away from the AOS meeting the other night, and I want to thank those of you that were able to attend, hearing that there's some disconnect, and I'm really glad to see all of you, even though it's virtually. And I think we may need to consider the possibility of holding some meetings over the summer, but just to keep the board and the community connected. So I'm certainly available, and we'll do that. But I just, if that's what the board would like, and that keeps folks, you know, fresh and in the loop, then we're committed to doing that. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that as well. Thank you.
I think that at Monday night, I was in complete agreement to that. I think that that's a good idea. I think for all facets of what we're doing right now, I think it's a good idea. All right, unless anybody else has anything else. All right, hearing nothing, I will just take a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave. Oh my God.
Jessica Stewart, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Jess. Do we have to go down through the whole? We don't, because we don't do that during a regular meeting, do we? All right, I'll just take a second.
Jessica Bass seconds.
All right. You guys have a great night. Thank you all for coming and being a part of this, and stay safe and enjoy the weather.